Today we're going to be talking about Hurricane Sandy and the effects that it had on the East Coast, where we'll be talking about how it was tracked up the coast before it made landfall, as it made landfall, and then how GIS was used to help aid victims that were affected by this hurricane.
One of the primary ways Hurricane Sandy was tracked throughout its path up the East Coast was through deploying meteorological instrumentation to calculate accurate data in terms of wind and rainfall. Some meteorological data that was deployed in the storm was through aircraft, and this instrument helped weather analysis and local governments coordinating first responding help to local individuals in the area that would be affected by overlaying this meteorological data onto maps. This primary map projection that was used in order to create a good visual representation of the area that would be mostly affected is the Mercator map. The Mercator map has an increasing amount of distortion towards the poles, but less distortion at the equator and mid-latitude section where the East Coast and where Hurricane Sandy would land. And so this created a easy visual representation of that area so that people viewing a local weather broadcast could see exactly where this hurricane is going to hit and plan according in terms of formulating a fluent evacuation plan.
One way that GIS can be used in the tracking of a hurricane or tropical storm is through storm buoys in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. These buoys are used to read wind speed, sea surface temperature, air temperature, wave heights, and sea surface currents. The information that these buoys record is sent back to land station, where storm watchers record this information and can tell the exact latitude and longitude location of the hurricane.
GPS devices, together with remote sensing technology, is used widely by relief organizations such as Red Cross to locate and reach people in need. Remote sensing and GPS devices also helps people in evacuation as they inform people of the most viable route to evacuate. It also informs people of the accurate path where Sandy is coming from, therefore helps people who is of real concern to stay alert.
This is a map that incorporated vector data to prioritize the areas that needed to evacuate first. The red is the first area, Zone A, yellow is Zone B, and green is Zone C. The triangles on the map indicate shelters or areas where people can go for refuge.
Another way GIS and remote sensing is used is in the assessment of the damage after Sandy. This shows the before and after of the storm of the same area using NOAA imagery developed by Esri. This is done using a bunch of vector data. It is very obvious how serious an impact Sandy has caused to the area.
Hurricanes like Hurricane Sandy can have a very large impact on census data. For example, when Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast in 2005, it devastated the region. The census estimated that nearly 10 million people were affected by the storm. Because of this severe devastation, the 2010 census showed that many of the residents that were affected by this storm did not return to the area, especially those who were in a lower class.
In conclusion, today we talked about 5 primary chapters of material and how Hurricane Sandy was related to them. Chapter 1, we talked about map projections, how the Mercator map projection was a primary type of map that eliminated distortion at the mid-latitude center of which is the primary area of where Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast, and an easy visual way for people to see exactly where this hurricane is going to make landfall. Chapter 2, we talked about latitude and longitude and how meteorological data can be correlated with latitude and longitude coordinates in order to predict where this storm is heading, where it's been, and where it's currently lies. Chapters 3 and 6 covered census data, and census data is important because it gives us the ability to analyze how the storm, what type of people did the storm affect in terms of financial status, and will they come back after the recovery effort has been completed. Chapter 4, we talked about vector data and the Esri program and that analysis of damage control, and because different areas of the East Coast were affected differently, so this vector data is important in terms of coordinating an efficient recovery effort. And Chapter 5 talked about GPS usage and GIS, and that was the Red Cross and being able to talk to first responders and prioritizing who needs help. I'm Mike.
I'm Saran.
And I'm Bill.
And this is our video on how GIS was incorporated in the storm of Hurricane Sandy.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam